Sports.
Pitch hit high in the air into left field. And that ball is gone. George Beck has given Tennessee the lead. Christian Scott, a leap at the fence. He runs a home run.
Sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhousesocial.com.
Then Joyce kicks and delivers. Strike three.
Rock Solid Sports.
See that?
The only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
You have to wear that. And rule number 4, I will walk around to collect your answers. Once I have your answer, it is final. You can't go back and change it after that, so make sure you're good and confident when you turn
And welcome in to another Wednesday night edition of Rock Solid Sports here on WTK, the Rock 90.3 Rockin' Ears for 41 years. Thank you, everyone out there, for rocking with us again this week. We are back down here live at Fieldhouse Social, as you probably hear in the background. Fieldhouse Social, our Wednesday night sponsor. Want to shout them out, of course. 2525 University Commons Way. We thank them so much for their support. American Craft Food, beer, cocktails, 21-foot digital big screen TV right here. If this camera up here was bigger, I would show you the whole thing. Plenty more TVs throughout the patio and inside. We've got sports everywhere you look around. Always a good vibe. I've got Dominic down here with me. He's co-hosting this week. What's going on, Dom? How are you feeling the vibe down here this week at Fieldhouse?
Feels great as always. I'm always super happy to be at Fieldhouse. One thing I don't like, though, is that Kendrick Perkins is on the TV. Never a fan of Big Perk, but very happy to be here at Fieldhouse as always.
Happy to have you back co-hosting too, Dom. So let's as I've been told, we do not unfortunately have our own Coach Clark from the Ice Spheres on as of right now. Typically how we start off our Wednesday segments. All good. We've got a whole still loaded show still for you, so no worries on that end. I do want to shout out our people back in the studio. We've got Allie and Chloe producing tonight. We've got Dylan and Devin back in the studio. What's going on, guys?
It's going. Last day before kind of short Easter break, if you celebrate it. So looking forward to having a couple days off, watching some baseball. I know the Florida Gators are going to be in town this weekend. Might have to hit that up.
Yeah, and the weather, of course, has been beautiful. Always such an amazing time of year. And I know that we got a concert going on nearby as well here. And I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be going to a concert coming up pretty soon as well, the Afro Man concert that's happening tomorrow. So I'm very excited for this time of year. It's going on as well.
Yeah, Devin, I did not take you for an Afro Man fan, but that is awesome to hear, man. I hope you enjoy the concert. All right, well, let's jump right into it. Again, as I told you, we have another loaded week for you. Let's start it off with the biggest thing popping over the weekend. That was the Final Four, both the men's and the women's, both taking place back in my home state of Texas, one in Dallas, one in Houston. Let's start with the men's taking place down there in H-Town. We had the Final Four, which was set up with three teams who had never even achieved up to that point. We had Miami, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and then UConn. Big bad UConn coming in. We knew what they were capable of, and I think, at least as far as I'm concerned, Dom, I think the Final Four kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. UConn just seemed like the better team from the get-go.
Yeah, this really was not the most exciting Final Four, if we're being honest about it. The FAU-San Diego State game, it had some pros to it with that late game buzzer beater. That was pretty phenomenal. But all around, not a lot of people were really super invested in this one. It's a bit unfortunate. We love Cinderella stories, but once it gets to the Final Four, you kind of want those blue blood matchups, and no one's shocked that UConn walks away with this one. And I mean, they did it in dominant fashion too, winning most of the games by double digits in the tournament.
Yeah, and that's fifth championship all time for the Huskies. They were 4-0 coming into that championship game against those San Diego State Aztecs, who they beat 76-59, a game that was mostly dominated by UConn, by the Huskies. San Diego State, second half, started getting some things going, started to look like the Aztecs that we've seen, and especially in that Final Four game. It was just an absolute crazy comeback and crazy to that game. Guys, back at the studio, are you surprised at all by UConn taking it all?
Honestly, no. I think in one of my brackets, I had UConn going all the way. So I could kind of I had a scenario in which they were able to pull this off. But I just know that like UConn has been a basketball school more than they are anything from what I know. And they're just doing what they can do. Win basketball championships.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, their women's team, as we know, has been extremely successful, but sometimes so successful people forget, hey, wait a second, the men's team has won 4 national championships as well, all since 1999. So all kind of like almost like how Duke won their 5 national championships in a relatively recent era. And so now it's the big question: is UConn's men's team also a blue blood, just like their women's team absolutely is? Is their men's team also on the same level as Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, UCLA, all of them?
I think that's a fair question, Devin, because look, you've got a team who, I always try to bring up my guys whenever I can because we're not having a great season. But when I look at UConn, maybe not exactly the same sustained success, but the overall success they've had over the last, 2 to 3 decades, the 5-0 in the championship round reminds me a lot of my guys, the Spurs, in terms of how when they get there, you can just almost bet that they're going to go ahead and take it all. This is 2 championships now that they've won down there in the state. They had won one previously in San Antonio. Now they can add Houston to their list. We look at this UConn team. We look at the best player, Adama Sanogo, and what, just kind of what the future holds for him. I mean, undoubtedly the most dominant player on the court at any point, probably in the tournament, but especially in that Final Four in that championship game. UConn certainly up there with the Blue Bloods now. I think you have to take them into consideration for San Diego State. Heartbreak, of course. I mean, they had the great season they mentioned 2-3 years ago. COVID wiped that out, and since then they've been trying to get back to this point. I think they had a lot to prove. And Coach Dutcher and those Aztecs proved a lot to the entire country just by being in that position. Certainly a sad out for them, no doubt, along with that of Miami and Larranaga and Florida Atlantic, who put us out. I thought Florida Atlantic for sure had a chance to be a true Cinderella team.
Yeah, FAU, they did something really remarkable with just the program they have. And what really set them apart in my eyes was they just made other teams play horribly. Like, it didn't matter who they were playing. They would just make them play ugly, dirty basketball, and it made it hard for the other teams to win against them. San Diego State ended up being that team that was able to get past them, and San Diego State has been trying to break through for so long, especially being from the Mountain West country. I've watched the San Diego State team for a long time. They've been really good for a long time. They just have not broken through in the tournament, and they finally did this season, and it really shattered any expectations anyone had for them. And they finally solidified themselves as one of the better college basketball programs of the West.
Absolutely. I want to get you guys back in the studio real quick, just about just kind of your overall feelings about Sanogo as well. I mean, is he going to be a top 10 pick, top 5 pick? Is he going to be the guy as we enter the NBA draft? Devin, what do you think about that?
Well, I highly doubt top 10, top 5, anything like that. I think he'll get drafted, but I don't think it'll be until the second round, probably, just because there's so many great players, particularly now in today's age, foreign players and players in the G League as well that are playing incredible. Obviously, the top 3 is pretty solidified, but Sanogo, I think he can work in the NBA. I know people are obsessed with how many 3-pointers you can shoot in today's NBA, and I know that's not Sanogo's strength, but he has such incredible footwork, and he's such a great rebounder. I find it hard that a team wouldn't want a guy like that with his energy, with his wherewithal of where to be to rebound for the basket, and he's so big and so strong too. He's just tough to stop down there, and he's got finesse. So a big man that's as strong as him with incredible footwork and finesse, I think he deserves to have a shot in the NBA, but I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick.
Fair enough of an assessment. As long as he brings that same energy, I don't worry about Sanogo, but it's certainly going to be, I think, an added benefit for any team that decides to go with him. But we'll see how that future holds. Nevertheless, congrats to the UConn Huskies on their 5th championship. And we just we can't wait for basketball to get here back soon enough. Let's transition over to the women's. We also had their Final Four going on down in Dallas, and we had the Final Four as being between Iowa and those Fighting Caitlin Clarks versus South Carolina. What a fantastic game that was. Caitlin Clark just putting everything on display and letting everyone know that she was in the building, not that she hadn't done so already. And then as we move towards the championship game, we also had LSU, of course, making their way to that final championship. And as we all know by now, LSU is the national champions. They were able to beat Iowa and the Hawkeyes there. So it's definitely was an interesting turn of events. I think South Carolina getting put out surprised everybody. Undoubtedly, I think we all expected the South Carolina LSU rematch. I mean, how do you feel about this Final Four now that's shaped out? Were you going for Iowa once they put out South Carolina?
South Carolina, go ahead.
I was definitely feeling Iowa for sure, just because Caitlin Clark is so fun to watch, and she's just been so phenomenal she's been a phenomenal representative for women's college hoops, and it's really been cool to see how much media attention women's college hoops has been able to get now, the attention they've deserved for so long. They're phenomenal athletes, and so I've been all over this Final Four. It's been so much fun to watch, and I wanted Caitlin Clark to win, so it was a bummer seeing them go down to LSU, especially in the way that it happened with just the refs were not great in that game, and it kind of needs to be addressed. Really just bad inconsistencies from the referees of that game. Weird no calls on LSU's coach. I believe her name's Kim Mulkey, and she was all over the sideline, walking onto the court, basically. No calls going that way. And then some questionable calls against Iowa. It was a shame that the biggest women's sporting event was a little bit marred by the referees.
A lot of controversy about those refs that I've heard as well. Back in the studio, guys, I mean, how are y'all feeling? I mean, I know I was going for Caitlin Clark in Iowa, but I also can't be mad that the national champion is in the SEC. What do you guys think about that?
You guys know me. I always love it when championships end up being between a Big Ten school and an SEC school. Obviously, I'm biased towards the SEC now, but in my years of growing in a Big Ten conference, I can still appreciate just the sheer quality that Iowa is at a lot of the sports. I don't care what it is, SEC versus Big Ten is going to be something that everyone pays attention to. And in a game as important and as widely different of a score margin between the two, it just showed the SEC's dominance.
Yeah, and a lot of people were shocked by that result. I mean, after Iowa shocked South Carolina, me personally as well, and a lot of people were thinking, hey, Iowa's going to win the whole thing. And I was like, well, we shouldn't count LSU out because they beat Virginia Tech, who, of course, took out our Tennessee team. Virginia Tech's got an incredible team. So, LSU's got an amazing coach, a great team. And, they really shocked. They scored over 100 points. And regardless of what side, to score over 100 points in a college basketball game is just so remarkable. That just almost never gets done, men or women's. Like it doesn't matter. Scoring over 100 points, extremely impressive. I will say, Angel Reese. Now she's become an interesting topic of conversation since, as a result of what she was doing towards Caitlin Clark during the game, after the game. I am curious to know what other people's opinions are on this, because I got to be honest, I've heard both sides on this issue, and I agree with parts of both sides. Is Angel Reese and all this type of attention that she's bringing to women's basketball good for women's basketball? And I say that with the controversy and without the controversy. Do we think all this attention is generally good attention or bad attention towards the sport?
I will say her taunting after Caitlin Clark taunted her earlier in the game. I'm all for that, just because when you start talking smack early in a game and then you end up falling behind, you're going to hear it from the other team. I know that from experience. But as soon as the game's over, Sure, tensions might be a little high. You're probably a little mad that it didn't go your way, especially in a game as prestigious as the national championship. Just bury your feelings and kind of accept the fact that you were there. Sure, you came out on top, but there's a line in which you got to tone it down.
Yeah, and me personally, like, look, I'm all for, trash talking. I wish I say it all the time. I wish trash talking was more of a part of the game in the NBA today. The fact that
Just
they've
all
gotten away
sports
from
in
that,
general.
I think it's good. I think it draws an attention. I thought what Angel Reese was doing to Caitlin Clark was a little excessive, considering that Clark did not do like Clark doing the "you can't see me" thing for 1, maybe 2 seconds, and then Reese doing it for a long period of time and following her around are not the same. People have tried to show that as the same thing. They were not the same thing.
That's fair.
But so, and I've heard both sides of it, but yeah, I mean, I really can't form a strong opinion on it. I mean, I think the attention that Reese is bringing in is good and also bad at the same time.
I think that it's totally fine. Everything that she's done, she's her own person and her own athlete, and she's allowed to represent herself however she wants. And I do think that the women's game is at a point now where we kind of need to stop having kind of kid gloves around it and just treat them as the athletes they are. And I think she's totally allowed. Yeah, I think she's totally allowed to do whatever she wants. And I love the fact that she's kind of become a villain, because sports need villains and heroes, and it makes it all the more fun. So more power to her. I'm sure that she's been great for her teammates, and I just love watching the competition.
Yeah, I think for me, it certainly adds an extra exciting element to the game, and I think without going too far down the road, but we especially have talked about women's sports and just how much they've tried to change the game. It is certainly an ever-evolving thing. I mean, this is, I think trash talking probably used to be more a part of the game than it is now, as y'all are talking about. But for me, I don't mind to see it. I think, yes, there is an extent where, okay, let's move beyond it and get back focused on what we're doing here. But I just take into account at the end, normally at the end, either somebody wins the game or somebody loses, and that's it. You part your ways. Somebody won a championship in this sense. So I think it's harder to not continue, or at least keep it up for a little longer than maybe ordinarily you would have. Nevertheless, congratulations to Angel Reese and the LSU Tigers on their national championship. I do want to mention real quick that we had Kelly Harper, who conducted an interview, or a press conference, I should say, earlier today on our campus, and our own Allie Seaton was there at the press conference. Let's hear from her, kind of what Miss Kelly Harper had to say about the close to the season for the Lady Vols.
Hey, so pretty much, Coach Harper was talking about how this season came to a saddening end, honestly, since, we did not start off the best as we could have. We had a jam-packed schedule. I mean, we had several top 20 teams in November and December, and she even said if she could go back, she would have decrease the amount of great schools. We ended up losing to Virginia Tech towards the end, but she pretty much said that it was a little bit bitter, that they had some nerves, and they ended up reverting to what they looked like earlier in the season.
All right, right on. Well, thank you so much, Allie, for giving us an update on the Kelly Harper press conference. Obviously, we would have wished for a little bit better for our Lady Vols as they got to the Sweet 16 again this year, but certainly have a lot of hope for them moving forward, and we hope that Coach Harper can get things really moving in the right direction next season. All right, that is going to wrap it up for our first break. We are going to come back, and on the other side, we're going to have some Diamond Sports getting into some Tennessee baseball as well as the softball team. Stay tuned. This is your Wednesday night edition of Rock Solid Sports here on WTK The Rock.
This is John Schofield, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, bringing Knoxville new music first.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and in Westtown Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, The Band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss, Bliss Home, and Corey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Support to keep The Rock on the air comes from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose 2023 home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, and others. allvols.com for general public tickets, and UT students are admitted with a valid student ID while seats remain. The Rock wishes Coach Weekly and the Lady Vols softball team good luck on the diamond.
The Rock thanks the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2022-2023 home ice season from October through April includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets are at KnoxvilleIceBears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Link up at WUTKRadio.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
The Rock thanks Lost and Found Records, 3710 North Broadway, for their support. WTK will be set up at Lost and Found for a record store day Saturday, April 22nd, beginning at 10 a.m. The Rock crew will be hanging out under our tent and will have new WTK t-shirts, caps, and hoodies for sale to benefit the station, as well as new WTK stickers. We'll be registering to give away a pair of passes for the 2023 Southern Skies Fest in Knoxville. Live music from Epic Ditch, Mercy Lights, and Stooges Tribute will be part of the RSD fun, along with food, giveaways, cool merch, and all ages are welcome. Info about Record Store Day, April 22nd at Lost and Found Records is on their Facebook page.
Hi, this is Richard Lloyd. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock receives support from The Hill, Ford Sanders' destination for wings, beer, and sports, including a pre- and post-game hang for UT baseball and softball. The Hill is the home of Rock Solid Sports Friday broadcasts from 6 to 7 p.m. Located on Forest Avenue, just blocks from UT campus, The Hill is open 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. every day and has a large covered patio. TheHillKnox.com.
The other half cat. Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2023 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports covers Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com. Link up at WUTKRadio.com.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the campus headquarters for food, brews, pool, shot starts, sports, and more fun. Tuesday night is team trivia night, and Thursday nights are for bingo. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2023 baseball Vols season runs February into May, with games against SEC rivals Florida, Vandy, Kentucky, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show a valid UT ID at the gate for entrance on a first-come, first-served basis. Tune in to Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Hello, I am Van from Catfish and the Bottom. How are you doing? You're listening to 90.3 The Rock. Don't get it confused with the WWF heavyweight champion, the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. This is a radio station. Thank you very much.
Johnson, The Rock. So, yeah, definitely don't get that confused. But, yeah, we are back. This is Rock Solid Sports here. Back at Fieldhouse Social, as we are at every Wednesday, our fabulous Wednesday night sponsor, 2525 University Commons Way. Always get the trivia in the background every week. You guys always hear it. The atmosphere here is just always great, and we just appreciate them so much for the support. Down here, American Craft Food, beer, cocktails, and this big old TV that sits right behind us, and these wonderful recliners right in front. So always, it just sets a really good mood down here at Fieldhouse. So again, thank you so much for your fabulous support. I'm here with Dominic Throngard, co-hosting this week. Dominic, we talked about coming in to this segment. We were going to get into some baseball sports. Now those baseballs, looking at them, of course, going over the past, week or so, we had the unfortunate series versus Missouri. We had the big bounce back versus A&M. This past weekend over in Baton Rouge, unfortunately did not go our way completely. We did salvage one game as we left Baton Rouge, but it was a tough fought series for sure, and especially looking at who we have coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that here in a second. I want to get your thoughts on the LSU series and just kind of what you thought about the Vols.
Yeah, breaking away with one of those games felt really nice to me, honestly, especially considering the amount of just unforced errors that the team was making in those first two games. It was not the most fun game to watch from the standpoint of a Vols fan because you just saw the team making some questionable errors, and it's a little bit frustrating, especially considering where we were at last season, which it's just going to be a continuous theme throughout the season. That we're going to have to kind of reality check ourselves because we were so spoiled rotten last season. So stepping away from this one with one game out of the three against probably the best team in the nation, that feels really good to me.
Go ahead, Dylan.
The first two losses were close games. That being said, it still sucks to see, but the Saturday game was a 14-7 blowout. So in a way, I guess the kind of offense that Tennessee produced in that third game that we were actually able to pull off the win kind of makes up for all the things that went wrong the previous two, but you still got to remember what went wrong in particular and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I think that 14-7 game, of course, very interesting. Our Vols winning, 2 touchdowns to 1 against the Tigers down there. Brought back good memories from that going back to October. But yeah, those first two games, very close games against the number one team in the nation. Just such a hard fought game. I think for our Vols, especially as at this point, they're still, I don't want to say trying to find their new identity, but they are still bringing themselves together as we're starting to get into conference play. I saw a lot of good hard fight out of them. Definitely what I wanted to see down in Tiger Country. I'm sorry, Dylan or Devin, were y'all about to say something?
No. Hey, Devin, do you have anything?
No, I was just gonna say. The only thing. I wasn't about to say something before, but I guess what I will say here is, yeah, LSU has been the number one team all season long. I was shocked when I saw they were number one to start the year. I was like, really? Because last year they were, as we remember, like kind of mediocre. But they've done some incredible recruiting. They've changed up a lot of things. They started out number one, and they've absolutely met the expectations. We know there's tons of chaos in college baseball, and yet they have stayed number one this whole season. So for Tennessee to be as competitive as they were in their home stadium, I think it's good. And again, it's still a long season left to go. Tennessee's number 11. That is plenty high enough to still be in contention for a championship at the end. As we saw last year, the two teams at the end were unranked teams that barely made it. So, hey, anybody can still make it at this point.
Well, I want to get your all's kind of preview reactions. If you that doesn't seem to make sense. I want to get your previews about this weekend because we've got another very good opponent that we're taking on. Fortunately, this one is at home. This is against number 3, Florida. Is that correct? Florida. I know they're definitely ranked up there a little higher, but this is nevertheless Florida Gators coming in. This is a team that has been very good in baseball in the past, 2017 champions, and this year they are looking pretty good as well. I've seen a couple of their games so far, and this is a team that for sure could pose similar threats that LSU also posed to Tennessee. I'm curious, this one being at home, this is a 3-game series starting tomorrow at Nelson Stadium, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Can Tennessee get the series win this weekend against the Gators?
I definitely think it's a possibility for the Vols to walk away with a win in this one, at least 2 of the games they're going to play, because the Vols are still one of the top flight teams in the SEC, and they really want to prove that. Obviously, it's not last season anymore, but we really want to consistently see that top-level play out of the Vols, and against a rival, the fans are going to show up at Lindsey Nelson. It's going to be a huge, huge deal, and I think that this team is going to respond to that pressure well, because it seems like in the past they've been able to respond to pressure quite well, because everyone has been quite negative about this baseball team, especially in the past with just the antics they get up to, but they always seem to respond well to it.
So honestly, with home field advantage, I think we'll be able to secure 2 out of the 3. I know that because the one issue Tennessee might have, despite with having home field advantage, is with the lack of students around for Easter break, it might not be as loud and hype to distract Florida to kind of help out with that. That being said, I'm hoping people show out and actually kind of contribute.
Yeah, on the flip side of that, also, who knows? The weather will be beautiful. And on the flip side, if we've only got a limited amount of time over the Easter break. Maybe a lot of people will say, you know what, I'm not going to head home, but I'm here. I've got no homework. Maybe that's the perfect time to go see a baseball game, such a huge one. Yeah, I think this is a hugely important series, just like the softball team series home series against Florida later in the season. You win this series and it could set you up for something much bigger later. It's a massive rivalry. It's so fortunate that we get this one at home this year.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Devin. Fortunate for the Vols. I think last year we wouldn't have minded at all wherever the game was at. Certainly, we saw that down the stretch in the SEC championship. So nevertheless, this is going to be a difficult opponent for the Vols coming in. But, I'm with you, Dominic, where I've seen a lot of times where they can bounce back. And especially, they didn't have a bad series against LSU. You guys kind of pointed that out. Yeah. It was just going against a tougher opponent. And Tennessee hung in there. They did what they could with the number 1 team right now. And I hope, at least maybe this is just me as a fan, I sincerely hope that they were able to take from that game those pieces of what LSU was able to do and why they are the number 1 team right now. And I think it could only be beneficial for us, especially as we head into this weekend. Look, like you said, the Florida Gators, a rivalry across any sport that we play, where the Big Orange are playing them for sure. So this is going to be an interesting one. I hope there's a lot of students and players that go and show out at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, because your baseballs definitely need you to, and it should be a really good series. Now, I know the weather's not going to be great, I know, but we got to hang in there with them and hope that maybe they can pull this one out. And maybe it works in our favor. So let's move on to softball. Devin, you just brought them up a second ago. They are currently ranked the number 5 team in the country. They are coming off of a series win, I believe, down in College Station against number 21, Texas A&M. They won games 1 and 3 of that series. The Lady Vols are now set to host both Mercer and number 22 Baylor over the next 2 days. That is, they'll be playing each team one time each over the next 2 days for a grand total of 4 games. This is what is the Tennessee Invitational. Excuse me. With that being said, again, our Lady Vols still fell from last week, even despite the good series win against A&M. But I think they're in a really good position to take this one. And, Baylor is a team that can certainly pose some threats. But I think if I'm looking at 4 games versus these teams, I got to be thinking at least 3-1.
Oh
Without
yeah,
a doubt.
I would think so as well. Baylor, they can be tricky. They upset number 1 Oklahoma in their home in Waco earlier in the season, but that does kind of look a little bit more like a fluke because, of course, since then the Sooners have mostly dominated, and Baylor has just been around to be a solid team. So, but I can still see Baylor beating Tennessee at least once. Mercer, I can't really see Mercer beating Tennessee at all. I think it's unfortunate that Tennessee's ranking dropped a little bit. Their games against Texas A&M were so close, and then that game 3, they blew the Aggies out 9-2 in their stadium. So, I really don't think Tennessee should have dropped that much. But oh well, number 5, they are still one of the top World Series contenders. They look phenomenal this season, like absolutely phenomenal. And especially at home, you're right, Chris. I expect either 3-1 or really either 3-1 or 4-0 for these next 4 games.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with this Lady Vols softball team, and even in their losses against A&M and Bama, which, by the way, they've only lost 3 games this season, which is absolutely ridiculous for this point in the season. But in the games that they lost, it was more so, I think, the offense that just needed to get going than it was that the pitching was bad. They only let up 4 runs to Bama, and they only let up 3 to Texas A&M. That's really not a bad game from your pitching staff, and maybe you want a little bit more. But this pitching staff has tended to be phenomenal for this Lady Vols softball team. And I really think that as long as the offense is doing well, this team has nothing to fear down the stretch.
I think I'll be inclined to agree, Dominic. This team has been clicking at times during this season. They had the one stumble, again, going back to the A&M series. But that 9-2 win, was certainly impressive. But I say the same thing about that win as I did our baseballs leaving Baton Rouge. A very much needed win because it was just it's a good feeling anytime you can leave with that dub on your back, especially if it's been a tough series. Now, fortunately for the Lady Vols, they were able to string together 2 of those wins out of that 3-game series. So I think going into the next 2 days, they are sitting kind of right where they want to be. I think Baylor is going to keep it enough of an interesting tournament, if you will, that it'll still push Tennessee's boundaries. But I think the Lady Vols come out at least a 3-1 record on this. But again, I do want to reiterate that'll be 2 games tomorrow and 2 games Friday, both at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. And those games are going to be back-to-back during the day. So plenty of chances to go see your Lady Vols softball team over the next couple days. You've also got the men's hosting those Florida Gators for a 3-game series starting tomorrow over at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So a lot popping on campus. And we hope everyone out there goes out and supports your Vols. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for our Diamond Sports segment. We are going to be back on this side. We will continue to see if we can get Coach Clark on. If not, we are going to jump into some pro sports. We've got MLB that is hot, starting off hot this season. NBA right now is getting hotter as we get closer to the playoffs. And we got the MLS starting off as well. We'll give you an update on Nashville SC. Stay tuned. This is your Wednesday night edition of Rock Solid Sports.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2023 baseball Vols season runs February into May, with games against SEC rivals Florida, Vandy, Kentucky, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show a valid UT ID at the gate for entrance on a first-come, first-served basis. Tune in to Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
Volunteer Radio thanks Central Flats and Taps and Happy Holler and Terrapin Beer for supporting WTK by presenting 90.3 The Rock as their community partnership for the month of April, giving listeners chances to help keep us on the air. $1 from every Terrapin beer sold through April 25th goes directly to WTK and will earn that person one raffle ticket entry for each Terrapin beer in April. Not a beer drinker? No problem. As we'll have WTK Rockin' Ears for 40 Years pint glasses you can donate for and earn a raffle ticket as well. Prizes include gift cards, concert tickets, and the grand prize is a pair of 3-day passes to the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival this September. The drawing takes place Tuesday night, April 25th, for a WTK Pint Night Party at Central Flats and Taps beginning at 5 p.m., and you must be present to win if you have entered with a raffle ticket during April. 10% of food sales on April 25th also benefits The Rock. Info at WTKradio.com and on the events Facebook page.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2023 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports covers Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com. Link up at WUTKRadio.com.
Hey, it's Catch from Old Crow Medicine Show. You're listening to the WUTK 90.3 right here in Knoxville.
The Rock receives support from The Hill, Fort Sanders' destination for wings, beer, and sports, including a pre- and post-game hang for UT baseball and softball. The Hill is the home of Rock Solid Sports Friday broadcasts from 6 to 7 p.m. Located on Forest Avenue, just blocks from the UT campus, The Hill is open 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. every day and has a large covered patio. TheHillKnox.com.
The Rock thanks the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2022-2023 home ice season from October through April includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets are at KnoxvilleIceBears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Link up at WUTKRadio.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Support to keep The Rock on the air comes from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose 2023 home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, and others. Allvols.com for general public tickets, and UT students are admitted with a valid student ID while seats remain. The Rock wishes Coach Weekly and the Lady Vols softball team good luck on the diamond.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday Night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans offers lunch daily and is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu, and is the pre- and post-game on-campus location for Vols and Smokies baseball and Lady Vols softball. MLB, pro soccer, and even the Preds on the big screens. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Troy Mason Shoes on Gate Street and in West Town Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music about bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Troy Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Welcome back to WTK 90.3 The Rock, where we're cooking up some sports here at Rock Solid Sports. I'm right here alongside my main man, Chris Clark, watching some hoops down at Fieldhouse Social, having a grand time as always in this beautiful, blissful environment. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, man. Tonight's obviously been great. We've had such a great show. A lot of good segments and topics. You know, everything that's happened over the past weekend with our Vols, college sports, and all that. So definitely great show going on tonight. And I'll tell you what, Dom, it just got better. We've got Ice Bears Coach Clark on with us. Coach, do we got you? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the show, Coach. We're happy to have you on. We know this is an important time of the year right now for you all, coming off of the 3-2 win, this past week, and also knowing that you've got the home and away split coming up with Roanoke as well. As you get ready to prepare for this weekend, Coach, and especially for that final game here in Knoxville, just kind of what are your thoughts right now as you get ready to enter this weekend?
Yeah, it's a big weekend for us. I mean, positioning wise, we could end up 4th, 5th, or 6th. So I mean, depending on who we play in the playoffs. I mean, Roanoke could be a contender that we play, Huntsville or Evansville. So I mean, this is a big weekend for us leading into the playoffs for sure.
So, Coach, looking at the box score for last week's game against Evansville, it was honestly, I guess the proper word's fairly uneventful, very lacking penalties, which is a good thing. What was kind of different that made things relatively calm?
I mean, to be honest with you, we're playing a different style when leading into the playoffs because you can't have too many fights and you can't find yourself in the box in playoffs or it could hurt you. And during the season you can play a different kind of a little chippier. But we're just focusing on trying to bring what we're doing now into the playoffs and moving forward.
And actually kind of branching off that, this weekend going back-to-back against Roanoke, you think you can keep things calm, or are the tensions from previous games going to just be the way that they are?
I'm sure the tensions will still always be the same, but I mean, I told our guys we're staying out of the box and we don't need any injuries or suspensions leading into the playoffs. If they want to go and do something like that and cost themselves, and that's on them. But we know we have the toughest team in the league, and no one wants to battle against us. That's for sure. And we're just gonna play our own game and stay out of the box and stay away from all that stuff right now. It's too close to playoffs.
Dev, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's 2 games in a row to close out. You've played so many games lately against this team. Again, that's weird scheduling a little bit, but but it's really become very intense. Is there anything from all those games against Roanoke that you've played in the past that you're going to try to? Let me rephrase it like this. What's one key area? What's one thing besides the penalties that you really want to see from your team against Roanoke that you haven't really seen before?
We just want to. We're working on our defensive game. We know we can score goals. We put up over 5 goals a game for most average, and we can score goals with the best of them. We lead the league in goals for. It's just we have to keep the goals out, and that's our main thing leading up here in the next 2 games, going into playoffs, that we're just trying to tighten up against. We could be playing Roanoke in the playoffs, so it'll be a kind of a dress rehearsal.
So this past weekend, Stead was able to save 49 out of 51 shots. Of course, that is a lot in hockey in general. How are things in the locker room after he pulled something like that?
No, absolutely. He's been playing great, and when he plays that way, it gives us a chance to win every night. The guys are pumped for him for getting the win and keeping us in there, because we started out a little bit behind 2-0, and we battled back and had a good second and third period.
All right, and Coach, I guess kind of to wrap things up, with the regular season coming to a close, it being your first year, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate how things went this year?
I don't know about a scale, but I mean, it's been great. I mean, with the adversity that we had with injuries, suspensions, and call-ups, and I mean, the city's been great. The fans have been great. The players have done their best, and I mean, if I could rate it, would be other than the injuries, would be about a 9 out of 10 for sure in my book. I mean, only thing that'll be better is winning a championship. So.
Well, that's the only thing that'll bring it to a 10, and we'll probably end up asking that same question in a few weeks, regardless of what happens.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, Coach, you guys have certainly been through a lot as you've battled throughout this season in your first season back here at Knoxville. So Dylan kind of took my question there. I definitely just wanted your thoughts on your first season back in Knoxville, being the guy at the helm. So that being said, Coach, we won't take up any more of your time. We certainly appreciate you always coming on here, and especially we know you're a busy man this time of the year. Good luck in this last weekend, this last regular season weekend, especially as we approach the playoffs. And we'll be talking to you soon, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, that is Coach Clark of the Ice Bears. Again, a very busy man this time of the year. Now we all know what it's like, especially as you get to the end of that regular season and you're trying to, focus on that when you know you got playoffs on the back of your mind. So not an easy thing to always do. But again, go Ice Bears. We can't wait to talk to Coach next time, and hopefully we got some really great news. So that being said, let me throw it back to Dylan real quick. You've got us some NHL updates, my friend?
Yeah, we'll go pretty quick. The Predators past 7 days had a 2-0 loss at Pittsburgh last Thursday, 6-1 win over St. Louis Saturday, a 5-1 loss at Dallas on Monday, and a 3-2 overtime win over Vegas yesterday, with Cody Glass scoring the overtime winner. You got Carolina tomorrow, Winnipeg Saturday, and Calgary Monday. First of all, Devin, I'll shoot this one to you. 5 games remain. Predators sitting at 4th in the Western Conference wild card. What do they got to do to secure that spot?
Well, they got to beat Calgary and Winnipeg. And obviously Calgary and Winnipeg, they play tonight. Actually, well, their game should have already started.
Let me actually pull that up.
It started at 7:30. That's a very important one to look, because if you're looking at the Western Conference wild card, you said Nashville is 4th. Seattle is number 1. I think Seattle is going to make it. That just leaves that final spot. Winnipeg is next in that spot. Then it's Calgary. Then it's Nashville. Nashville absolutely has to beat both Calgary and Winnipeg, and they got to win at least one more of their final games in convincing fashion. I doubt it will be Carolina, because A, Carolina is just incredible. B, the Predators do not have a good recent track record against the Carolina Hurricanes. I'd love to see them beat them, but I doubt it. At the end of the day, I'd love to see the Preds get into the playoffs, even if they get blown out in the first round, just because it'll be good experience for this very young team that we have. Unfortunately, they've had a negative scoring differential all season, and I just think Calgary and Winnipeg and Seattle are just much better teams than Nashville right now. And, Nashville is not going to be able to get that second wild card spot. They'll get close. I just don't think they're quite good enough to make it right down the stretch. But if they do make it, they have to beat both Calgary and Winnipeg, and maybe somebody else in these last 5 games.
And speaking of Calgary and Winnipeg, again, they're on tonight, currently tied 0-0 with 16-18 in the first. We also have Lightning and Rangers going on. New York is up 2-0 with 12 minutes left in the first. And Edmonton at Anaheim starts at 10. And actually, speaking of Edmonton, Connor McDavid is just built different. 62 goals, 85 assists, 147 points. 4 games remain for the Oilers. Can he reach 150?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely possible. And I wish that this Edmonton-Anaheim game could have been more interesting, but sadly for them, Anaheim is eliminated from the playoffs. But still, it's a Pacific Division rivalry, so it should still be a really good game. And yeah, the playoffs are, for the most part, pretty much set. And even some matchups are actually set. The Lightning and the Leafs are going to play each other
that's going to be good
again in the first round, which last year, for those of you that don't know, the Lightning and the Leafs went to 7 games. It was an absolute thriller. Toronto really had the best chance of beating Tampa, but they blew a 3-2 series lead. They just couldn't get it done. And then
that's
Tampa,
just Toronto.
Exactly. But we'll see in the rematch. I mean, I expect, again, as you said, Dylan, just because it's Toronto, I expect Tampa will beat Toronto again in the first round and set up a matchup with themselves against the Bruins potentially in the second round. If not, then it could be Toronto versus Boston if Boston does what they can do against a lower seed team, which I think we all have a good feeling about how that would go. That would be really shocking if Toronto could pull that one off finally after all these attempts. But yeah, the playoffs going to be super exciting. The defending champions, Colorado is in, Minnesota is in, Dallas has already been in, Vegas is in. I believe Seattle will clinch soon for their first playoff trip. LA is in. So the Western Conference is getting pretty set. The Eastern Conference is getting pretty set. And these are going to be some really competitive, fun playoffs. Obviously, the Bruins are the overall favorite. But, you know, I mean, we've seen in hockey, I mean, the President's Trophy winners, you know, haven't done so well these last 8 times. Now, Boston has an absolutely insane team, but it would not shock me to not see the Bruins in the Stanley Cup final just because of how crazy and epic the Stanley Cup playoffs can be.
Boston has just been an absolute anomaly this year. And I'm pretty sure they're the winningest team of
all time.
And pretty sure that record goes all the way back to like Montreal in the 70s. And so it's just awesome. Anyways, you said who's in out of the playoffs: Philadelphia, Montreal, Columbus, St. Louis, Vancouver, Arizona, San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, and unfortunately my Capitals. Really hate to see that. I can watch the playoffs without bias, though, which makes them a lot more fun, to be honest. And kind of to wrap up hockey, as always, the Ovechkin goal tracker hasn't changed. Still stuck 822, 72 away from Gretzky, 42 this season. Probably not going to get to 50 unless some miracle happens. He scores several hat tricks. It's whatever. I'm happy with where Ovechkin is. But yeah, that's all we got for hockey. What else? What other pro sports do we got, Chris?
All right, thank you so much, guys. So yeah, we have, of course, one Knox soccer team who has started quite the buzz over the past year, being a new team here in Knoxville, and slowly but surely growing that fan base. We have our own Dominic Thongard right here, who was at the game yesterday. Dominic, tell us a little bit about how that went for us down at One Knox.
It was a really cool experience down there at Regal Soccer Stadium, which is where they're playing now that they've been, I guess, promoted to USL 1, not technically by winning games, but just in the U.S. soccer system, the way you would get promoted is by showing that you have a successful team. And the community support has been great for One Knox, so they've been able to make that jump into the professional world of U.S. soccer in the 3rd division. But last night they played the U.S. Open Cup against Memphis 901, a USL championship side, which is the tier above One Knox. And it was a thrilling game. It was very hard fought. The first half, Memphis got ahead off of a header from Dylan Borjak. And then in the second half, Knoxville came out on fire. They looked great, and they were able to draw a penalty, converted. And then the game continued to battle, went into extra time, couldn't find a winner in regular time. And at the death, at the last possible moment that they could have, Memphis scored off of a corner kick.
Crushing.
Heartbreaking fashion to lose 4-1 Knox that way. But the fan support was great. There was almost 2,000 people at the stadium. The manager, Mr. Mark McKeever, was very pleased with the fan support, very pleased, very proud of his guys. It's been really cool to be able to see soccer grow here.
Absolutely, and we want to shout out One Knox soccer team as well. We will be definitely covering their games and bringing you all those kind of like live updates. So stay tuned to all of our socials as always. And we are out of time. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We will be right back here at Fieldhouse Social next Wednesday. Y'all have a good week and go out and support your balls and baseballs.